Today's Tanya for the second day of Shevat is at the beginning of Perek Yutes, chapter 19. It's on Daf Chav Daled Amud Aleph. The number at the bottom of the page is 78. The Alter Rebbe is explaining the verse, "It is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart to do," and has explained that serving God with the heart comes in two ways. One is by arousing emotion of love and fear that animates the mitzvah and makes the mitzvah into a service of God, into an avodah. That this love and fear is aroused through the understanding of God's greatness, through the contemplation on God's greatness, and the emotion is born from the seichel. There's another level in which the seichel is not so strong. The understanding of God's greatness is not so thorough that it can produce an actual emotion in the heart. And what it produces instead, the contemplation of God's greatness, produces a conviction in the mind and in the recesses of the heart, where the person is moved to serve God with love and fear, but the love and the fear are not actual emotions in the revealed part of the heart, but are love and fear out of conviction in the recesses of the heart. That too enlivens the mitzvah and gives the mitzvah the ability to rise as wings that help the bird rise. And so even the person who doesn't have a great knowledge of God and can't arouse emotions born out of intellect can still serve God, and it is still close to them to serve God, because they can serve God with the conviction that is born out of their contemplation. Then in Perek Yutes, the Alter Rebbe says that there is one further step, and that is that even the person who can't produce intellectually a conviction in the heart, not even that, his intellect will not suffice to arouse and to move him with a love and a fear in the recesses of the heart. Even this person can still serve God. And in order to explain that, he begins explaining how every Jew is connected to God. Every Jew's neshama is godly because of the patriarchs. Because they were the chariot of God, because they were essentially godly beings, therefore every descendant of theirs inherits from them a godly soul. In this godly soul, there is a level of chachma that is present in every soul, even in the lowest of the low, even in the soul that comes from the lowest level of the lowest world. Even there is an element of chachma, and chachma is bittul, and in bittul there is a presence of Ein Sof, there's a presence of God. Why is it in chachma? Because chachma is pre-intellect. It is the origin of intellect. It is not yet comprehension. So since God can't be comprehended, no thought can comprehend him, therefore in that part of the neshama where comprehension takes place, godliness is not present, because it can't encompass God. But on that level of the neshama that is higher than intelligence, that is higher than intellect, there God can be present, and is. And this is the same level, the same place or part of the neshama that produces Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh of a Jew means that he sees the truth. God is illuminating his soul, and therefore he can't deny God. Not because he understands God, not because he chooses God. It's not a choice at all. God is there and therefore cannot be denied. And that is the true definition of emunah. Emunah means when the truth is clear and visible and therefore cannot be denied, that's emunah. That's called faith. Faith means when God makes himself known, not when you discover God, or when you understand God, or when God becomes relevant to you on your level. That's seichel. That's within nature. But emunah is when God makes himself known to you by revealing himself. Perek Yutes. Uleteisves biyur. For further explanation, tzarich levayer heitev, we need to explain clearly Mashikosuv, the statement in the Torah that says, the verse that says, Ner havaya nishmas adam, that the soul, the neshama of a Jew, is the candle of God. Pirush, this means Sheyisrael hakruyim adam. The word Adam in this verse refers to Jews, because Jews are referred to as Adam. So Nishmasam, their neshama, the neshama of Jews, he lemoshel ke'er haner, is as for example the light or the flame of a candle. Shemisnane yatomid, it is constantly flickering. Lemaila, drawing itself upwards, reaching upwards, bitivei, and it does this by its nature. Mipnei she'er ha'esh chafetz beteva liparid mehapsila. What does it mean that the flame reaches upwards? It means that it wants to separate itself, it wants to tear itself away from the wick that contains it. Uledavek, it wants to cleave, to attach itself. Bishar she'lem maila b'yiseid ha'esh hakloli. It wants to attach itself to its root, to its origin, which is above it, in heaven, in the element of fire, shetachas galgul hayareach. The elemental fire, the source of all light and fire, comes from a place in the sky, in the heavens, that is under the orbit of the moon. As is explained in the Kabbalah. So the reason that a candle, that a flame, draws itself upwards, reaches upwards, is because it wants to leave the wick, and it wants to be reunited with its source. And its source is above, and so it reaches upwards, it reaches towards its source. What is unique about this? What is unique about this is not only that everything else, every other element, is drawn down by gravity, and therefore is constantly traveling downwards, with the exception of fire that rises. Another significance to this uniqueness of fire is that everything else, when it is drawn downwards, is being drawn to its source. Because earth is the source of everything. Everything is of the earth. And so it is drawn to its source. But in being drawn to its source, it doesn't extinguish itself. It doesn't sacrifice itself. On the contrary, it furthers its own comfort and its own existence. It perpetuates itself by being closer to its source. And since there's a general principle in nature that everything seeks its own survival, therefore it is unique to the fire, not only that it goes upwards to its source, but that in doing so, it sacrifices its own existence. But the analogy of the neshama to the candle is to tell us one other thing. This sacrifice, when the flame extinguishes itself in order to be closer to its source, is not a conscious thing. It's not a decision that it makes. It's not even a choice that it makes. It is by its very nature. Although, again, nature dictates that everything fights for its survival, there is the exception of the candle, of the flame. It struggles by its very nature to extinguish itself and become part of its source. That's why he goes on to say, V'av shal yedei zeh yichbe, although through rising and leaving the wick, it will extinguish itself, v'lo yoyeh klum lemata, so that here below it won't illuminate at all. There will be no fire. V'gam l'mayla b'sharshei, and even above in its origin, there it will not enhance its existence, but yizbatel eirei b'metzias b'sharshei. Its light will again be lost and extinguished within its source. Afal pikein, and in spite of this, bekachu chofetz b'tivei. Yet this is the nature of the candle, of the flame. And that's why it is the only physical phenomenon that we can use as an example to describe and explain the behavior of the neshama. Because the neshama too, when it gives itself away, when it sacrifices itself for godliness, it is not a decision that it makes. That kind of sacrifice non-Jews also make. The uniqueness of a Jewish Mesiras Nefesh is that it's not a decision at all. As the Rebbe said in the previous chapter, it is as if he doesn't have a choice. He can't separate himself from God. He can't deny God. Kach nishmas ha'adam. The same is true also of a Jewish neshama. V'chein b'chinas ruach v'nefesh. And not only on the higher level of neshama, but even on the lower levels of ruach and nefesh. This is the nature of the neshama, that chefta v'chasheka b'tiva, its desire and its want, by its very nature, is lipared v'lotzeitz min haguf. It wants to separate and leave the body. Ulidovek b'sharsho mekeira b'Hashem chaya chayim baruch hu. It wants to cleave to its source, to its root, which is God, the life of all life. Hagam shetiya ayin ve'efes, even though it will become absolute nothingness, v'tizbatel sham b'metzias legamre, and it will there lose its existence completely, v'lo yisha'e mimena me'uma, and there will be nothing left mimehusa v'atzmusa harishin, from of its first essence, of its original existence. In other words, here on earth, that existence will be extinguished completely. The Alter Rebbe emphasizes that what will be lost is its present condition, its present existence, but not that the neshama will stop existing completely. Because the neshama is an eternal thing, and it'll never stop existing. But this part that it gives up, this condition that it is sacrificing, is the natural condition. And yet its nature is willing and almost can't help but give up itself, give up its nature, so that it is within its nature to lose its nature. And that is an exceptional thing in the physical world, and an exceptional thing in the soul of a Jew. Afal pikein, in spite of this unnaturalness, this is its desire and this is its want by its very nature. Not a decision. It doesn't come as a conclusion. It's not something that the neshama considers and weighs and comes to the decision that godliness is better than life. That would not be true Mesiras Nefesh. True Mesiras Nefesh means that it's not something that will enhance your existence. It's not even something that will enhance your spiritual existence. Mesiras Nefesh means nothing remains of you and your condition and your interests and your character. Godliness is true, godliness is obvious, and godliness can't be denied. What will become of me becomes totally irrelevant. Even the spiritual results. Because any time a person has Mesiras Nefesh, out of reason, he comes to the conclusion that his devotion to a certain project or to a certain commitment is worthy of Mesiras Nefesh, then he's not giving up anything at all. This is his way of furthering his own significance and his own existence. True Mesiras Nefesh means, I can't help it. It's godliness that makes itself known, that makes itself visible, and therefore cannot be denied. And the Mesiras Nefesh is not a decision that I come to or a choice that I make. It may even be that by my seichel and by my midas and by my nature and by my character, I don't want to have Mesiras Nefesh. I don't believe in it, I don't admire it, I'm not looking for it, but I can't help choosing, if we can use that word. I can't give in or use the other option that is available to me. I can't deny God, and therefore I have no choice but to surrender to the Mesiras Nefesh. V'teva, and the word teva, when we say that it is the nature of the neshama to do that, zehu shem hamushal l'chol davar. This teva doesn't really mean that there is something in the soul that makes it have Mesiras Nefesh. The word teva is a word that is used for all things. She'einei bebechinas tam vadas. The word teva doesn't have a specific meaning. The word teva is the term that we use to describe whatever it is we don't understand. Anything that is super rational, anything that is true but can't be explained, we use the word teva. We say it's nature. V'gam kan, the same is true here too. Hakavana, the meaning of the use of the word teva is sherotzein v'chefet zeh b'nefesh. This desire and this want to be connected to God that the nefesh has, einei bebechinas tam vadas v'seichel musag u'muvan. Its desire to cleave to God, to be close to God, is not the result of some logical and wise decision. It is super rational, it is beyond reason and beyond seichel. And that is the element of chachma in the soul, in which God resides. And so this is the connection that a Jew has to God. Even the Jew who can't arouse a love and a fear of God in the revealed part of the heart, and he can't arouse a conviction in the recesses of the heart. Yet, that, the love and the fear that comes from seichel, comes from a lower level. That comes primarily from bina. Bina is the mother of the children. Eim habonim. Emotions are the children. The mother of the children is bina. So the emotions, love and fear with which we serve God comes from the bina of the godly soul. But this attachment, this desire to be close to God that comes from chachma of the neshama, this is much higher than emotion, much higher than love and fear. And with this, every Jew is capable of doing a mitzvah, not only as a dry, lifeless mitzvah, but full of life and full of intensity, coming from the chachma of the neshama. In a sense, every mitzvah the Jew does is with Mesiras Nefesh, which is even higher, and certainly an Aveda, even higher than a mitzvah done out of love and fear. In the Hayom Yom, for the 2nd of Shevat, the Rebbe writes that my father once related, the Rebbe Ashab related, that the Maimer Va'era Ushmi Hashem, which speaks of the Le'yidach Mimenu Nidach, that no neshama will ever be lost from God, which is not the one that is published in Torah Eir, that Maimer gained itself the title of the Frumer Va'era. And the Alter Rebbe would repeat this Maimer approximately 3 times a year, once every 3 years. And each time he would repeat it almost exactly word for word. And the Tzemach Tzedek said that every time that the Maimer was said, there was a new light. And my father said that light is always the same, but the luminary, the Mo'er, the source of the light is always fresh and new.